So you want to shoot an NRL Hunter match, but you don't know what gun to use. This is the video for you. What's up, YouTube? We are back in the shop today. It is freaking hot outside. There's no air conditioning. This is a metal building, so I'm absolutely sweating my butt off right now. So we're gonna try to knock this thing out. This is unscripted. I'm kind of just shooting from the hip here. But I wanted to make this video because I kind of had a cool experience this past weekend with shooting an NRL Hunter styled match. I think for you guys who might be interested in shooting one of these matches, this might provide some value to you, especially if one, you're trying to decide which gun to use, or maybe you only have one of these styles of guns and you want to figure out how to make it work so that you can still go get some valuable training in. That being said, let me just share a quick side note with you guys. I honestly believe at the end of the day, if you want to see where you're at in terms of your shooting capabilities, whether that's pistol, long gun, carbine, whatever, competition is the true format. Stress is on, you got things on the line, and you want to do your best. Most of the time there's going to be some sort of timer or clock, a scoring system. There's rules you have to abide by, and they're going to determine your overall score. At the end of the day, most of these matches have pretty fair scoring. And so it's what I would assume is a fair assessment of where you're actually at and your capabilities. So if you want to know where you're at, go and compete and allow that competition to drive your future training. Just go out and compete, guys. It's the best way to get valuable training. It's the best way to know where you're at, and it's the best way to drive you forward to future success. Okay, before we jump into the gun portion, again, there's a really important story I gotta tell you guys, which is, why this video is even a thing, why this video is even being made right now. So last weekend, Memorial Day weekend, I had the opportunity to shoot in this match. It was held at Day Mountain Ranch, which is a local facility to me for training. And it's where I run all of my shooting courses with Snake Eater Ranch. And it's just beautiful. Doug Day, the owner, has a wonderful, wonderful facility. He's an awesome guy. And it was some of the most difficult shooting I've ever done. So during Memorial Day weekend, he was holding his Redemption at the Ranch, which is what this match was called, and it had different matches. He had the NRL Hunter styled match, he had the ELR stuff, he may have even had PRS, I can't remember, but he had a bunch of different matches that he was running out there. Last second, I was convinced to sign up for the NRL Hunter match. And the whole reason I wanted to is because this style was super intriguing to me. I felt like it was the most realistic. You have to run up, you have to locate your target, you have to range your target, you have to use your dope to engage the target, and you're all in like a 4-minute time period enabled to do this. I was like, man, this is just like some of the things I used to do in sniper school. This is just like some of the things I used to practice. So this is gonna be really awesome. So 2 days before the match, I sign up and I go through the rules and I read them. And one of the rules is that your gun has to weigh under 16 pounds. They want your gun to be like a true hunter's gun, where you're not packing, this really heavy rifle around with you as you're packing through the mountains and as you're packing out your meat. You want something that's capable, but you want something that's light, something that's easy to pack around, and it's not gonna kind of get in the way or strain you too much. Being dumb and unprepared, I thought, oh, my gun is definitely under 16 pounds. And so I didn't really do anything about it. I figured the day before I would just do a quick zero chrono, make sure everything was ready to go. I was even planning, which this is kind of a big rule in snipers, that you don't clean your gun the day before a competition. But what I was gonna do is I was gonna clean it, and then I was gonna go and I was gonna put like 20 to 40 rounds through it just for a full day of like practice, building up some carbon in the barrel again, and just making sure that this thing was like dialed in, ready to go. So the day comes for me to do all this stuff and prepare, and my day got a little bit busier than I thought. I ended up having to wait till the evening, until after my kids were in bed, to do all this stuff. So I really didn't have as much time as I thought, but I wasn't too stressed about it. I honestly figured I would be able to do some stuff in the morning as well at the range, and that it wouldn't be a big deal. So I take my gun out, I give it a quick clean, nothing crazy, and then I get it all ready to go. Everything is perfect on this gun. The last thing I remember is maybe I should just double check my weight real quick so that I'm not over the 16-pound weight limit, which I should have done probably 2 days before when I signed up. So I take it to the scale and the gun weighs 18.4 pounds. I double check, I grab another scale, the gun weighs 18.4 pounds. There's nothing I could take off of this gun that's gonna change the weight 2 pounds, you know? The suppressor doesn't weigh that much. I don't have any other optics I can replace. The Night Force ATACR is notoriously a heavy optic. It's a tank, but I didn't have anything else comparable to it, and so I kind of had to use it. And then other than that, it was just the rifle I had. It was the setup. I had to basically I had to make the decision to not shoot the gun anymore. I wasn't allowed to, which meant I had to shoot my SPR. Now, at the end of the day, I probably could have called Doug and the match, who was the match director and the owner of the ranch, and just been like, hey man, my gun weighs too much. Can I still come shoot? You know, don't count me in the competition, but just allow me to shoot the courses of fire for the training and to kind of see how I stack up against everyone. I'm sure he would have said yes and been fine with it. But me, being who I am and my background, I thought, oh, all right, so the day of the match comes, I roll up to these stages, and it's some of the most difficult shooting I've ever done in my life. Cross canyon winds, we have a high angle shooting. Like, it was awesome. The training and kind of the reminders that I was getting from my time in the service of like, wow, like I've kind of let some of this stuff go. And I'm not as good as I used to be at some of these things, like deploying my tripod, having a process for how I'm going to attack this stage, getting caught up in going from like locating the target to ranging the target to engaging the target. And one thing I forgot to mention with this stage, because it was not a true NRL Hunter sanctioned match, one of the things they changed to make it more, I think beginner friendly was maybe their hope, was that it was not blind targets. So they would show you where your targets were before you began the stage, but you weren't allowed to range them. So you'd show up, you'd have an idea of where your targets were, and then you would go and you would engage them. Some of the targets were still, I had a general idea of where they were, but there was, you know, one stage where there was a target, I just could not even find it, because even after they had pointed out directly, hey, it's over there, you know, they wouldn't let you get in your binos to see it, they wouldn't let you use a spotting scope, but most of the time you could see them by eye, but this one target I could not see. That's just a side note though. So I'm going throughout these stages, and it was almost like every stage I saw where this gun was good and where this gun maybe wasn't so good, and why specifically it wasn't so good. One of the reasons was that the 550 yard limit was just not true. And I don't, you know, hold it against this guy at all. I still, even if he had told me that the ranges we'd be shooting, I still would have, you know, brought this gun out there. But there was some ranges or some targets that I was, you know, we were punching out to 850, 900 meters. That was something that, like, with the ammo I was using, a 16-inch barrel, I just was not confident in my ability to hit those targets. One of the main reasons for this, like, lack of confidence was my scope. You know, I'm running a 2x12 on here, and it does have mil increments on my reticle, but it's not like a Christmas tree. This is like 1 mil, 2 mils, 3 mils. It's not, you know, 1 and then 1.2, 0.4, 0.6. There's no points in this one. One of the things I was having to do was pretty much dial on all of my dope, which is something I was not used to. It's something I've never done. I've always dialed for, you know, far targets, but I've never dialed for maybe some of these like 600, 700 meter engagements. I've always just kind of held my dope, and it's been what's worked for me in the past. Is that the right answer? No. I'm just saying that's what I've done, especially since this gun, being an SPR, in my opinion, is meant for quicker, faster engagements. It's not meant to see a target, dial on your dope, and pull the trigger. It's like, I'm running speed drop, I'm running point blank zero, I'm running something that allows me to engage a human-sized target fast. Which kind of leads to the next point as to why this gun maybe wasn't the best choice, is that I wasn't shooting human-sized targets. Every target out there that I was shooting was much smaller than a human-sized target. There was some, especially out at those 850, 900 meter ranges, where it was a full-size IPSC target, but majority of the time, these were small coyotes, groundhogs. They had, you know, plates out there. They had squares out there. I would say maybe between 4 and 8 inches at varying distances. But these targets were not very large targets, which with this gun and this scope made it so they weren't extremely easy to hit. Now, obviously, if I'm shooting inside of certain ranges, like, that's not really an issue, but the farther out you go, hitting those real small targets with this specific scope where I only have 12 power was not as easy as I thought it would be. And part of the reason for that confidence that I had going into this match was like, oh, like I've pushed this thing out 800 and 900 meters before, but what I was shooting at those ranges was much larger than some of the targets I was hitting at this match. Even the 600 meter targets, which is kind of, you know, by the book, what SPRs are meant for is at like 600 meters and in, you know, I was very confident 600 and in, I would have zero issues. But with everything going on, with shooting high angle, with shooting with these, you know, converging winds in the canyon, shooting some of these smaller targets was definitely not as easy as I thought it would be. But I had that confidence because I was used to shooting IPSCs at that distance where I was like, yeah, this thing will hammer. So that was one thing that, you know, I think if I could make a change on this gun, is a 16-inch with 77 grain, some real nice, you know, 77 grain, is it possible to do everything that was being asked to do at this competition? Yes. Would it be difficult? Absolutely. But if I could change one thing, it would be the scope. Because this scope, though perfect in my opinion for an SPR setup, is not perfect if you're trying to do a more precision setup where you have some more time to get everything dialed in perfectly and take a good shot. Probably the last thing that I'll mention about, you know, why this gun maybe wasn't the best is the bipod setup. I have Harris bipods on here. They're the 6 to 9 inch. And I love these bipods for SPRs because they're super fast, right? I could pull on my quick tab, they deploy immediately because of the springs. I can push my buttons, they shoot out to the full 9 inches, and I'm ready to get on my gun and go. As opposed to something like this where I have to individually pull, bring each leg down and then extend each leg by themselves. It takes a little bit more time. Again, it's the question of like speed versus accuracy. Like this gun is my like go to war, I'm reacting to contact, I'm taking quick shots. This is my like go-to gun. This is something where it's like, I might take a little bit more time to make sure that shot is perfect. And in terms of the NRL Hunter, there's a lot of really tough positions that you're gonna be shooting from where 6 to 9 inches of bipod just is not enough. You wanna have the ability to extend farther with your bipods and be able to work different angles with your bipods as well. You know, something like this, I can work a bunch of different angles and move my bipods up and out, as well as get way more than 9 inches of pull. Something with like my Harris, I basically have what I have, and that's it. And so there was times during the match where I was having to use my tripod where there was other guys who were basically just using these double pull and triple pull bipods, and we're getting the same amount of stability as what I felt. Double pull or triple pull bipod with a tripod rear is way better than shooting in like this awkward prone tripod position that I was having to do. That's kind of the main things I would change, where if you were saying, I wanna shoot an NRL Hunter match, but all I have is a gas gun, then one, make sure you have a scope that's got more power than what I think here, okay? I would probably recommend something of like a 4x24, I think would get you pretty good to the point where you're not having to put a massive scope on your like 16, 18 inch AR, but it's got enough magnification that you can zoom in a little bit closer than I think you would need to with like a full size human target engagement. The next thing I would say is different bipods. Now, if that means you have a Harris, that's fine, but maybe upgrade instead of the 6 to 9 inch, maybe go to the 9 to 12 inch, I think is an option, or even a little bit bigger. And then yeah, the last thing I would say is just make sure that you go out, you test the gun and try different grains. You know, I shot 77 grain, but it was also my first time shooting 77 grain out of this gun. So I had it zeroed and ready to go. The entire time I'd use this gun, I just used 55 grain because I was like, that's what I keep in stock. Worst case scenario, that's what I'm gonna be shooting anyway. Not to say that that's the right choice, but that's just what I've done because it was a cheaper option for training. If you want to use your gas gun, make those changes, and I think you honestly could do pretty well. There were guys who used gas guns. Most of them were shooting like a 308 or a 6.5 Creedmoor, and they did fairly good at the competition, but they did have other things that allowed them to make those more precise shots that I didn't have. Okay, now, let's just talk quickly about this gun, even though it's not really majority of it. Obviously, this is the right answer, right? You want something that offers a little bit more precision and more magnification, more stability, more options with the bipod. But there are things even on this gun that if I were to take this gun and get it ready for an NRL Hunter match, I would change them. The number one thing that I would change is obviously probably the barrel. Now, there's nothing wrong with this barrel. This is a fantastic barrel for what its purpose is right here. But this barrel, I don't have the exact weight calculations, but I'm assuming this barrel probably weighs about 8 pounds. Like, this is a thick boy barrel. Now, there's things that I could probably do with this barrel to make it lighter. If I got the barrel fluted, it'd probably be a little bit lighter. This is also a tapered barrel, meaning it's really, really thick, like here on this portion, and then it tapers out and gets skinnier as it goes on. You know, that's something that obviously adds a lot of weight to the barrel. The reason why you want weight in your gun is because it allows you to control the recoil really well. So when you look at guys who are shooting like PRS, they have really, really heavy guns. Some of them even, in fact, will throw weights up here on their frame because it helps control the recoil. It helps balance the gun a little bit more. But in an NRL Hunter match, one, you have the weight restriction, but two, you're also carrying your gun with you everywhere you go. So that day that we did this match, I probably walked a total of anywhere from like probably 5 miles, I would assume, and carrying the gun around the entire time. If I was carrying around an 18, 20 pound gun, like that weighs on you. And sometimes if you're the first person when you get up to the stage, like they're gonna try to give you time to allow yourself to calm down and let your heart rate drop, but that may not be the case. You know, that was how it was at this match, but I've not competed at others. The number one thing I would change on this gun is definitely the barrel. Getting like either a straight barrel, a fluted barrel, or one of the carbon fiber barrels out there that are fantastic and extremely light. I think a lot of these carbon fiber barrels you can get weigh anywhere from like 2 to 4 pounds. So you could be cutting a significant amount of weight off this gun just by doing that. The only other thing that I would change on this gun to get it ready for the Hunter styled matches is getting a double or triple pull bipod. Before this event, I really did not see the value in a double or triple pull. I had never used them in my life. I had never seen anyone use them in the military. I just thought that they were long and awkward and didn't seem super stable. And I had the opportunity while I was out there this weekend to just kind of see what it feels like and looks like using a double and triple pull. And I can tell you right now, they are worth it. They make a massive difference. To give you an example, we had one stage where in the rules, it specifically said you have to have your barrel over this paint mark, which was on a rock, and you have to shoot from the rock. I was like, okay, cool, makes sense. What I'll do is I'll take my, my Armageddon bag here, my shooter bag, I'll lay it on the rock, put my gun on it, just like I've done my entire career, and then I'll break out my tripod and I'll go tripod rear, which is fine. It felt stable. When I got to the position, I realized that because I was so low to the ground, shooting tripod rear was getting really awkward. And instead of being able to bring the tripod to the gun, I was having to bring my gun to the tripod. And so I had to ditch the tripod rear and just shoot from the rock. Now, after me, I saw an individual with a triple pull go up to the stage, and he approached it similar to me in the sense that he was putting his shooting bag on the rock, but instead he was putting his shooting bag underneath the stock, which is very normal for prone shooting. So I was like, I wonder what's going on here. Well, what he did is he extended his bipods, because they were triple pulls, all the way to the ground. So he was getting contact with the ground on the front of his gun. Then he had the back of his gun in contact with the rock right over the paint, like the rules asked him to be. And he was in like a modified prone position where he had the bag in this hand to adjust for his elevation. He was holding the gun here and he was leaning all of his weight on the rock. Whereas my position, I was like super low to the ground in an awkward sitting position, with my shooting bag underneath the pit of my knee to offer me some support. And like I said, the position felt stable to me, but after I saw what he was able to do, I was like, wow, that is way more stability. He essentially had 3 points of contact with the ground, where in my position, I only had 1. And one of the things that you know about shooting is the more closer you are to the ground, the more contact you have with the ground, the more stable you're gonna be when you're shooting. All that being said, listening to my little spiel here, I really think that both guns offer certain versatility when you're shooting. There were certain stages where you had to move around a lot. For example, there were some stages where it was like, hey, there's one target, but you have to move to 4 different positions. With a gun like this, that's extremely light, with a short barrel, easy for mobility, it's very easy for me to pick that whole thing up and move it to a new position and not have to worry about like very much going on. Whereas with this gun, it may have been a little bit more difficult. I don't know, I haven't shot with this gun in the match yet. But at the end of the day, if I had to make a choice for what gun I would use, 1000% I would be using a bolt gun, especially for this match in particular, where we had 2, maybe 3 stages that were punching out significantly past that 600 meter mark. This gun, I think, would have performed very, very well. Whereas this gun, I was really struggling with these smaller targets to get the impacts that I wanted. So all that being said, coming from me and my one experience in shooting in this NRL Hunter format, I 1000% think the bolt gun is a superior option, especially if you can get your weight down to what you want it to be. You can get your setup to what you want it to be. One other thing that I'll note, which I think is important here, that I would add onto this bolt gun is some sort of timer. It can be really difficult when you're going through these stages not to rush certain processes because you don't know how much time you have left. I know MDT makes this super cool timer that you can flip down right here, and as soon as the stage starts, you hit the button and it has a countdown for you. I can't remember if it beeps or it has a certain colored light on it for like what minute you're on, but that would have been super helpful to me. I was running it on my watch and it just felt awkward at times, which may sound stupid, but it just felt awkward at times to like move my wrist up and take that time to look at my timer, which it would have been nicer if I could just from behind my gun, move my eyesight a little bit and be able to say, okay, I have 2 minutes, like calm down, or I have 30 seconds, I really need to push the pace here. I just felt like sometimes by bringing my hand either off of the gun, off the position, off the tripod, and bringing it here, I just felt like I was losing maybe stability that I was gonna have to regain and take 2-3 more seconds to build back up before I could take a shot again. The bolt gun obviously wins, in this specific format. And if you're looking for NRL matches, I would highly recommend them, guys. These matches are super cool. They're really awesome in terms of like what I think is real world application, whether you're a hunter, whether you're in the military. I just think that it's awesome that they make you pack the gear out. I think it's awesome that they make you run everything as if you were packed out. You can't, have things set up ready to go. You have to unload it all, unpack it. I like that you have to find your targets. I think that's something that's probably one of the more difficult parts of NRL Hunter, which I didn't have to do this past weekend, but I think that that's an awesome application that they put in there. And then just the whole engagement and shooting from weird positions, super, super fun. Go look up some local matches to you, go and compete in them, guys, and figure out where you're at and then base your training off of that. Thank you guys for watching the video today. I appreciate you guys stopping by. I just want to say real quick, in the past 2 months, we've been able to build this channel from 69 subscribers to now almost 2,000 subscribers. So thank you guys, I really appreciate it. I'm trying my best with my busy schedule to keep putting out valuable content to you guys. I want all this content to provide some level of value to you. Whether you're learning what not to do or you're learning what to do, what gear to buy, what gear not to buy, whatever it is, I want there to be value to you guys. So again, I appreciate it. More to come. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your guys' weekend.